Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Stellium Astrology podcast. I'm in my car again. It just seems like at the moment I'm always on the go and the baby falls asleep whenever I'm on the go. I don't know how long I've got today. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what I've just done. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Stephanie James. I am the astrologer at Stellium Astrology. I'm the founder. I used to write horoscopes for Elle magazine, and I'm also a tutor, an occasional tutor at the London School of Astrology. In fact, I will be doing a talk, I believe I will be doing a talk on behalf of the London School of Astrology at the Astrological Association Conference, the AA conference. Don't get that confused with the other AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, though there is a lot of drinking that goes on at these things. But yeah, so yeah, that's my introduction. So yeah, today I have had a bit of a, not a terribly, but like not an awful morning at all by any means. It's been quite a chilled morning actually. But Ewan is teething, my baby boy. He's about seven and a half months old now. He's teething. He's got his top teeth coming through because the bottom ones have already come through. So he's grouchy, and we actually had a really lovely long nap this morning together for 2 hours, which was really lovely. Yeah, and so then the rest of the morning I spent sort of like organising myself, planning what I need to do for the week and that kind of thing. And I've just got out to the post office because my mum bought him this really cute toy. I think I talked about the twirly woos before. I don't know if I talked about it with my patrons or if I've talked about it on the podcast, but somebody recommended we show him twirly woos, and he's mad for it. He loves it. There's this character called Peekaboo, and whenever Peekaboo draws this like screen on the wall, Peekaboo looks like a cross between a kind of sea urchin. My boyfriend thinks it's a crayfish. Is that right? Or is it cuttlefish? Cuttlefish, that's what he thinks it is. So yeah, anyway, he goes nuts for Peekaboo. So my mum's found this toy and she's posted it to us. And I'm currently at the collection office because our postman is crap. We've got all these postmen who are just, I live in an upstairs flat. They refuse to bring any kind of parcel up the stairs. That's fine. Okay, I get it. It's not in your remit. But one of our postmen doesn't even give us a chance to answer the door before he puts one of those slips through to say you've got to come and collect it. He literally, this day that they posted this slip through, they didn't even ring the doorbell. My boyfriend was in the whole day. They didn't ring the doorbell. They didn't let us know that it was there. So, yeah, it's really massive hassle when you've got a little baby that you've got to lug around. And I already had to go to the post office, which is in a different place. Now, it may not surprise you that actually my solar return chart, which is a chart where you cast it's like your birthday chart, like your birthday, many happy returns. That's your solar return, where the sun returns to its original position when you were born. And interestingly, for this year's solar return, my sun is in the 3rd house, which is all about local area. You definitely put post office in there, postman, writing, communication. And I have, since my birthday, been really involved with like local groups, like mum groups and stuff. And yeah, I've been to the post office quite a few times, and I've got a few issues with my postman. But that's total side note. I'll have to do a show on solar returns and the solar chart, solar return chart. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to do a really quick episode today. I'm not going to look at a listener chart today. It's kind of like today's chart is a discussing what we call it's kind of like an elected chart, or like having no birth time. So when you're looking at birth charts for people, usually when those people come to you, it's because something's aligning. So whether it's aligning in your chart with theirs, or something's going on, like something in their chart might be rising on the midheaven, but there's something prominent, and that's usually the nature in which you meet somebody. But you don't have to necessarily apply this to a person. You can also apply it to events. So there's another type of astrology called mundane astrology, which is like world astrology, where we can look at world events, we can look at countries, because, you know, like for example, America signed the Declaration of Independence on, I think it was the 4th of July, 1776, is that right? And I think that we cast that for Washington, and that gives America the rising sign. I can't remember what time it was now, but the rising sign of about 12 degrees Sagittarius. Sun's in Cancer. I can't remember which degree now. I think it's like 4 or 5 degrees, I think. And what's America's moon? Aquarius. I can't remember what degree in Aquarius either. But just for example, so that's when we kind of look at America's chart as being from then, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, because it was quite a major thing. And like now in the UK with Brexit, the EU, we're not part of the EU anymore. So you could look at the UK's chart as being either the chart that is, I'll have to post it up because I can't remember off the top of my head. I could probably look it up quickly because I do have it on my astrology software. Oh, come on, phone. So there we go. United Kingdom. So yeah, 1st of January 1801, and that's cast for, I think, Westminster actually, in London, England, and at midnight. So the UK's chart, the chart that we mostly go by, is 10 degrees of Capricorn, Sun, 7 Libra rising, and a moon in Cancer at 19 degrees. So just so you know, like, countries actually have birth charts as well. And so there's that kind of, then you have to ask yourself the question, well, the country wasn't born, but there was a poignant moment which created the need to cast a chart, and the country was governed in a certain way from that point onwards. So like I said, with like Brexit, like Europe may have a new chart now. I haven't actually looked into that. I think there's a book, I think it's by Nicholas Campion, who runs the course in Wales, the astronomy and astrology, what's the course called? It's a master's in cultural astronomy and astrology. So he runs that course, and he's written loads of things. He's written loads of books about astrology and cosmology and things like that. And the book that I'm going to recommend to you, if you're interested in mundane astrology, is the Book of World Horoscopes. It's a massive book. It's like the size of an old school encyclopedia, which probably people don't have on the bookshelves anymore. I'm just going to check the baby's not too hot. Hang on. I'm literally just uncovering him a bit because it gets a bit warm. But anyway, so yeah, mundane astrology is really interesting. And when you look at major events like what's going on with Russia and Ukraine at the moment, you can have a look at that, because astrology essentially isn't necessarily attached to people. It's attached to time and time passing, moments in time. So with me, my birth chart is actually just the birth chart, or it's just a moment in time which was transiting for my mum and dad. So that's why we usually have like good synastry with our parents, or bad. You know, we have synastry which describes the kind of relationship we're going to have with our parents, because we aren't necessarily, the chart isn't us, it's the moment which embodies our essence. I think Frank Clifford calls them snapshots, and there's a book actually called Snapshots in Astrology or something, which is lots of little essays that he wrote. So with that in mind, it means any moment in time can be, you can use a chart for any moment in time, really. You can have a look, and you can, you know, this is the point of today's show, which is not a really long show, but I just want you to take away from this today. I kind of want to call this your homework assignment, because it's something that you need to do in your own life in action, and it's something that you need to look at. It's going to be difficult if you don't have astrology software that you can generate a chart on the spot. If you've got to log into a website and you know, do that can be a bit more challenging. So it's worth having. If you don't have astrology software on your phone, I know there's loads of free ones now. But like I said, I use Astro Gold, which I think is really, really good and really worth the investment. Now, it's you can just keep a notepad on you, and you can just write a time and a date and a place that you were at. And so if there's anything going on, so like say you're walking down the road and you witness a car crash, write down the time, date and place. I know that sounds a bit morbid of me to pick that out, but you know, pick out the time, date and place. And then when you're home, you can cast a chart for it. Or if you've got your software, you can look at your phone in your pocket and see what's happening. Usually something like that, Mars or Uranus will be playing a key role. Now, if you are meeting up with a friend, like maybe pick a day, like if you're going out, if you've got plans, and from the moment you leave the front door, from the moment you start your journey, just make a note of the time that you leave your house. Maybe make a note of the time that you meet your friend. Think about the things that you talk about. Maybe make a little list of the conversation topics that came up. Or if you're like me, you can just record it and listen back and make notes. If your friend is okay with that, of course, don't record them in secret. That's kind of mean. Just kind of watch as time progresses how the transiting planets, literally without even looking at your birth chart, just watch how the planets rising and setting and the aspects made between them. And most interestingly, the aspects made between the ascendant and midheaven, which is ever changing. Keep an eye on all of that, because it's a very interesting study. Something I find very interesting is to watch a football match or sports. I'm subjected to a lot of sports because my partner is just insanely obsessed with football and American football and cricket and rugby, everything, you name it, he loves it. So I've taken to looking at football matches and trying to predict who's going to win, and I've kind of got that down. It's quite good now. I'm getting quite good at it, and I can almost predict when goals are going to happen as well. Like in normal football, not in American football, but in soccer, English football, I can usually quite accurately guess when there's going to be a goal. So it's worth, while you're doing something, maybe watching the football, or maybe you're going out meeting a friend or something, or maybe you're just going about your business and something happens, make a note of the time, the date and the place. And that's something that I obsessively did for years, and it could be, and it might be useful as well, if you have got the astrology software in your pocket, to be looking at things like, this is a great way to learn about things like some of the asteroids, or some of the hypothetical calculated places like Black Moon Lilith, for example. For me, I would be doing an astrology talk, and just before the talk started, I remember one time in London in particular, just before the talk started, I quickly looked at my phone, I looked at the chart of the moment, and at that moment that I started, Lilith was rising. And I often, whenever I sit down to get on with some astrology work, or if I'm doing something, Lilith always seems to be really prominent for me. And it's funny because I always felt drawn to Lilith. I never knew what she was. I think during my very first consultation with Frank Clifford, when I went and saw him and he did my chart, I talked to him about Lilith and said, can you tell me more about it? Because I'm very interested. Probably because my son's in conjunction with mean Lilith. And he said, I don't know a great deal, actually. It's not an area that I've researched, but I would suggest, if you're interested, that you start your studies looking at Lilith and see what happens. And it's like Lilith chooses you. So if you happen to notice Lilith popping up a lot in your chart calculations when you're looking at moments that seem poignant to you, then she may be speaking to you. And I know that was the case for me, which is why I ended up doing courses for the London School of Astrology and for the New Moon School in China. But, it's not just about Lilith, it's about anything that could be transiting at the time. And I always save these charts as well, and I put a little note. If anything's poignant, I try to make a little note. Or if I'm writing in my diary, I've said this, I've done a class for the LSA as well on this. If you're writing, if something happens, maybe you have a dream you want to note down, or something like you're really annoyed about something that's going on in your life and you happen to journal it, I try to remember to not only put the date that I'm journaling, but the time that I've journaled it and the place that I'm sitting down writing, because it's useful when looking back over your chart to when you're casting that chart, it's useful to sort of notice what triggered you to want to sit down and write. And, if you're recalling a dream, what was it that, jogged your memory? What planet is triggering or rising or on the midheaven, or where's the moon? The moon's also a massive indicator. So, yeah, it might seem like a bit of a strange homework assignment, and I will record I'm going to do an episode next week which ties into this, because I think it's like one that once you've gone away and done the homework, it's worth having your own experience with it and coming back because this is a really good introduction to astrology in action. So this is where we can take astrology out from the personal experience, which is what most people get into astrology for. You know, it's not anymore about you or looking at somebody's personal chart and looking at personality traits and trying to figure out what it all means for you or for your client or for your friend or your family member or for your pet. Yep, I've cast charts for my cats and stuff. In fact, I cast a chart of the moment that I met my cats and decided I wanted them to come home with me. So maybe that we can look at that next week. I can look at when I met my cats. You know, and remember, like when I was having Ewan, when I had my baby, I cast like that. The moment he was born was a transit to my chart, but that's his birth chart, but it's a transit to me. So I can look at when my waters broke. I can look at when he was born. And actually, I've looked at the transits from the previous day when I kind of had a really bad night's sleep, and there are things that triggered that. So it's a really good way, it's a really good practice for you to start to understand how planets might trigger us, what calls us to look at the chart, and essentially how sometimes we meet people at the moment we're meant to meet them. Which is why sometimes when you think, I've wasted so much time doing this, or I was in a relationship for a long time and I feel like I wasted a large chunk of my life, you know, maybe actually the timing was perfect. Maybe actually everything is as it's meant to be, because it just all seems to marry up with this planetary dance, which seems to be, you know, completely and utterly, you know, so meaningful. You know, there's not a moment that passes that doesn't carry some kind of meaning, whether it's meaningful for you or for somebody else. So your homework assignment is, as I said, do something, maybe carry on doing what you were planning to do, keep your plans, and decide for yourself, you know, to like track that day or look at that event, keep that timing. I'd say do multiple. If you can do it over the next week and you remember, do multiple. I always do this. I never used to wear a watch, and now I wear a watch because I like to know what the time is. Because if ever something's going on, I like to know what's happening at that moment, and you know, at least keep a mental note of the time, so when I can get home, if I haven't got battery on my phone or if I haven't been able to cast the chart for whatever reason, I can do it. And then I save the charts. You can journal about it. It's a great way to learn astrology. It's a really great way to learn. I've done a few. I think I did actually an episode on untangling or discovering some of your mysterious chart aspects, and it's a similar method. Is, you know, using the transiting planets like the moon and the sun or any of the others to have a look and have a deeper understanding of your own natal chart. So like when you know the moon's going to transit your sun, or when you know Mercury's going to transit, you know, your Venus placement, look at what's going on during that time. It should give you a greater understanding of your own natal chart, but in the bigger picture, in a more mundane sense, without being personally involved in things. We can look at stuff going on around us, and we can kind of witness what's going on. I'm now very curious to see what's going on for me, because I'm sitting in my car and I'm at the post office. So Mercury is around 26 of Aquarius, and I know my Mars is around that point, but Mercury and Saturn are just about to set in the chart. So it's possible that the reason that I'm sitting here at the post office, my local post office, is because Mercury and Saturn happen to be kind of straddling my Mars placement, and as this happens, I'm sitting in the car park of the post office, which is closed today. Did I happen to mention that it's actually closed, which is really annoying? So I've got up to the door with the baby in the carrier, and I can't even go in and collect his toy. So Saturn says no. Mercury is the post office. Mercury is Royal Mail, and Saturn also could lend to the royal title in Royal Mail. And it just so happens that me going out, anything I'm trying to do at the moment, I've got Saturn kind of hanging around my Mars. It's kind of making everything a little bit more of an uphill struggle. And, you know, I'm sitting here with Mercury and Saturn in conjunction. I get to the door of the post office and it's closed. No, I can't get my post today. No, I can't get my parcel. So that's an interesting observation, actually. And Mars and Venus currently in the skies are in conjunction at 1 degree of Aquarius. and I was going out on I was pursuing a gift sent to me, or a gift sent to Ewan for my son. That's Mars. The gift is Venus from my mum. So, you know, you can kind of tell a story of what's happening just looking at the chart of the moment. And usually some of the more interesting things is looking at what's going on for the whole month. You can look at the sun in Pisces and think about, well, what was this month like? Did I have low energy? Did I feel a bit scattered? You know, what is this process building towards, and how can I make the best of it? You know, when the sun moves away from Pisces and into Aries, we know that we're going to be a bit more directed about how we approach things, probably have a bit more energy, depending also where Aries might fall in your chart. But, you know, it's about tuning into that current astrological clock that's constantly ticking. It's never not ticking. It's always going. And even if you pass away, your natal chart will still have transits. You can look at often famous people's charts. Usually they're triggered by, like for actors, for example, might have like a comeback show or something, or they might do like a remembrance show on the TV for somebody or something like that. So just remember that the sky clock is always ticking, and the way to tune into the sky clock, if you're already in tune with the moon, which a lot of people are, they usually feel what sign the moon's in or what element the moon's in. Now is a good time. This homework assignment is a great time for you to tune in to your to the moment, and to understand what the planets are doing, how they're triggering each other, how they're triggering your natal chart, and ultimately how you're going to interact with that moment. So hopefully this has been interesting, not too confusing, and I haven't given you any examples of real life charts or real life moments. I'm going to have a look at some of my saved charts, and I'm going to come back to you next week with an episode with examples, so you can see how those charts triggered my own, how those planets triggered my own, what prompted me to cast those charts of the moment, and actually how you can apply this in your readings. Okay then, that's it. Don't forget, you can rate me on Spotify. You can just go to the little 3 dots next to the podcast page, and it should give you an option to review the podcast. Apple Podcast, you can also review me and leave me a star rating as well. I love receiving reviews. And I did actually have a listener get in touch with me this week who's actually signed up to be a patron as well. Let me just pull up my did I put it in my thingammy bob? Oh no, I don't think I did. It's Julie. Julie got in touch, and she said that's right, she said she loves the podcast. It's her daily thing she does before she kind of does anything is listen to the Stellium Astrology podcast, and it just gets her set up for the day, which I just was like, that is such a lovely thing to know, that people are tuning in and listening, because it's just it's just a great, it's just something that just gets people chilled out and enjoying their day. So I'm absolutely delighted to be the highlight for Julie, and a few of you have shared messages with me like that to say that my podcast brings you that kind of sense of enjoyment, and I'm really grateful for it. So do get in touch if you're enjoying the show. And just to let you know, I am emailing people now and inviting them to book in with me. If you've got any problems at all, please let me know. My email address is stephanie@stelliumastrology.com. You can get in touch, and I'll make sure that I can help you in any way that I can. That's it for today. I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to recording next week's show and hopefully showing you, and like by the time this show comes out, the next show comes out, you should have a feel for astrology in action, and this could actually awaken a whole new dimension of interpretation for you. So thanks once again. Don't forget, I'm booking people in, so if you've signed up to the waiting list, don't forget to check your emails. If you've left me your phone number, I might send you a WhatsApp message as well, or a text message. And if you want a reading with me, or if you'd like to have your chart featured on the show, you can join the waiting list for readings, and also from my website, if you sign up to the mailing list, you can get your chart featured as well. I have to get that organised and sorted out so that I've got easier access to your birth charts, because at the moment it's all a little bit up in the air, but that's Pisces season for you. So anyway, enough from me sitting in my car with my baby sleeping in the back. I'm going to say goodbye for now. I'm going to go and do some research, and then I'm going to get another show recorded for you as soon as possible about the astrology in action, really, and the chart of the moment and how it can feed into your interpretations. Take care, you guys. I'll speak to you next time. Bye now.